Hi, friends. This is a recording of this week's book, Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's Super Soaking Stream of Inventions, written by Chris Barton and illustrated by Tate. I like to do a recording in case you want to read it again with me and dig a little bit deeper into the story. All right. And with that said, I'm going to screen share with you and we can learn a little bit more about the amazing inventor, Lonnie Johnson, who is still alive and inventing to this day. And this book talks most about how he got to one of his most popular inventions, the Super Soaker water gun. All right. This is Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's super soaking stream of inventions. Every day brought a challenge for young Lonnie Johnson. The challenge of finding a place for all his stuff. And look at the stuff here in this picture. I'm seeing at least 5 rockets and a kite hanging out of the window. The Johnson kids, there were 6 of them, were squeezed into their parents' small house in Mobile, Alabama. Lonnie would have loved to have a workshop of his own, but there wasn't enough room. There was nowhere to keep his rocket kits, bamboo shooters, rubber band guns, erector set, go-kart engine, bolts and screws and other spare parts his dad let him bring in from the shed, and various other things he hauled back from the junkyard. And look at all the stuff on that table. Yeah, there's screws. I think I even see an engine over there. Lonnie loved building and creating. And ideas for inventions just kept on flowing. And maybe some of you feel like that. Lots and lots of ideas for inventions. And Lonnie wants a workshop. He doesn't have space for one, so notice where he's building. He's doing it right there in his family's kitchen. Lonnie learned how to make rockets from scratch. Pretty impressive. Kids at school gathered to watch Lonnie launch them. He learned how to make rocket fuel. And when it caught fire in the kitchen, Lonnie's mom didn't make him stop. She just sent him to work outside. So no more inventing in the kitchen for Lonnie. That's pretty nice of his mom. Lonnie wanted to spend his whole life designing things. It was what he loved the most, building things and getting them to work. He wanted to be an engineer. However, Lonnie took an exam, a test that said he wouldn't be a very good one. His dream had been challenged. And Lonnie felt discouraged by this, but do you think he listened? No. Lonnie knew that whoever had graded his test hadn't met Linux. And that's who's in the background there, that metal thing. Lonnie knows in his heart that he is a good engineer and that doing inventing brings him joy. Why would he listen to this test? He's going to set that aside. And it's very good that he does because Lonnie is a great engineer. Inspired by a TV show, Lonnie had built his own robot. He made it out of scrap metal and named it Linux. Compressed air cylinders and valves allowed Linux's body to turn and its arms to move. The switches came from an old broken jukebox. Lonnie used a tape recorder to program Linux. And as a bonus, the reels looked like eyes. So this is actually a tape recorder, and we can see it looks like eyes. It gives the robot a little bit of personality. Lonnie wanted to enter his creation into a science fair, but he couldn't get the transmitter to work. That's this part, I think, up on top. Without it, Lonnie couldn't send commands to Linux. Science fairs came and went. Lonnie missed one and then another until he got an idea. Now, Lonnie may or may not have asked before he borrowed his little sister's walkie-talkie. I think that means he didn't ask. But it fixed the transmission issue. His school's team took the freshly finished Linux to the 1968 science fair at the University of Alabama, where only 5 years earlier, African-American students hadn't even been allowed. Having to compete in a place that still wasn't very welcoming, Now, that was a challenge with a capital C. Against all the other schools from all over the state, Lonnie's team won first place. And we can definitely see some unfriendly faces in the background of this picture. But Lonnie and his team, they're very, very proud. And this is a great moment for them, winning first place. So Lonnie left home to go to college at Tuskegee Institute, where he stood out as a self-confident, insightful, and creative thinker. He stood out as a student who asked the right questions, precisely defined problems, and formulated solutions. And he also stood out as the guy who built his own booming sound system out of cast-off old electronics. It even had lights that flashed in sync with the beat. And here he is having a big dance party with this bumping sound system and flashing lights that he made. Lonnie's also a fun guy. Lonnie sometimes studied right in the middle of his own parties. And the extra studying paid off. He became an engineer after graduation. And that took him beyond Alabama, way beyond. In fact, it took him all the way to NASA. And even, do you recognize what planet this is? Jupiter. When NASA was sending an orbiter and a probe called Galileo to Jupiter, the space agency needed to ensure a constant supply of power to the orbiter's computer memory. So here we have the orbiter, okay? It's going to be launched. It's going to go all the way to Jupiter, fly around, and take lots of pictures. But they have to ensure that it has a good power supply the whole time. The engineer who had to figure out how to do it was Lonnie. His challenge was to come up with a lightweight backup system, able to keep essential functions going in case main power to the orbiter was lost. It wasn't easy. It wasn't obvious, but Lonnie found a solution. Some at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory doubted his idea would work, but Lonnie convinced them it would, and he was right. As the orbiter photographed Jupiter and its moons, Galileo was supported by the power package that Lonnie designed. Much of what we now know about Jupiter could have been at risk in a power failure, if not for Lonnie. What a great invention. So far, he's invented a booming sound system, rockets and rocket fuel, Linux, the incredible robot, and Galileo power backup. I wonder what he's inventing here. Let's find out. And when is he going to invent the super soaker? Ideas for other problems to solve just kept on flowing. They flowed whether Lonnie was working with hundreds of people at NASA or up late tinkering with his own inventions in, finally, his own workshop. Look at that. It's got to feel really good. He's got a special place for all of the things he needs for his inventions. Now, Lonnie knew that the world's millions of refrigerators and air conditioners needed a new cooling system. They needed a cooling system that didn't use R12, a harmful chemical that was bad for the environment. He had an idea to use water and air pressure instead of the bad chemical R12. To test his idea, he made a pump and a nozzle. So we can see the pump right here and a nozzle right here. And he connected them to the bathroom faucet. He turned on the faucet, turned on the pump, and then whoosh. The stream that blasted across the bathroom was so powerful, it created a curtain swirling breeze. It also gave Lonnie an idea for yet another invention. This, he thought, would make a great water gun. First, he had to find or make the parts, including a pump small enough for a child to handle. And then he had to glue the parts together into a prototype. That's an early version with room for improvement. So Lonnie was not trying to invent a giant water gun at all. He was trying to fix the refrigerator problem. But that gave him this other idea. And let's see what he does with it. Lonnie finally tested his strange looking squirt gun at a picnic. Does it really work? A man asked. Sure, said Lonnie. Want to see? He worked the pump, which squeezed air into the chamber. And when he pulled the trigger, whoosh, air escaped, forcing the water out with a giant whoosh. So friends, look at this. Is this like a regular little squirt gun? No. This is a lot more water, and it kind of like blasts out in this like powerful stream. So it's like a super squirt gun. Now, for a water battle to be a fair fight, there couldn't be just one of Lonnie's water guns. He needed help to make more. So we went from toy company to toy company after toy company. All right, so he wants to sell these so people can have giant super soaker water gun fights. But do you see what everyone at this table was saying? Do they think Lonnie's invention is a good idea? They're saying no, 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 no. Now in class, we kind of talked a little bit about why they think this is a bad idea and what you would say if you were one of those people at that table. A lot of you recognized right away that this invention of Lonnie's is a really, really fun idea. And you said you would have said yes. A lot of you also had good reasons for maybe why they would say no. Some of you said maybe it's too powerful and it could hurt people. Some of you said maybe they already make a squirt gun and they don't feel like they need another one. And Ale actually noticed that everyone sitting at this table in a position of power, deciding what toys get made and what a good idea is, you notice that they were all white people. And maybe they had some bias against Lonnie because he is a Black inventor. And maybe that's why they don't think it's a good idea. I thought that was a really, really good point to make. If there were Black or other people, brown people at this table, they might have said, this is a good idea what Lonnie has. Well, the word no flowed again and again. But do you think Lonnie gave up? No, he knew he had a good idea. Finally, one company said yes. It planned to make his water gun. Lonnie also had other projects, a water-propelled toy airplane, 2 kinds of engines, and his refrigerator cooling system idea. He found investors to provide money to turn his ideas into products people could buy. And then he did something a little scary. He made a leap of faith and he quit his day job and devoted himself full time to being an inventor. That was his lifelong dream, right? He's like, this is what I'm going to do. But soon each plan fell apart, even the one for the water gun. These things sometimes happen, but when they happen one after another to the same person, that's some pretty bad luck. Lonnie didn't have a job. He didn't have the money he'd been counting on. He and his family had to move out of their home into a little apartment, and he was angry and scared. But Lonnie had dealt with challenges all his life. He knew a lot about solving problems, and he still believed in his inventions, especially the water gun. And Lonnie went looking for another toy company. In 1989, he found a toy maker who was interested in seeing the water gun if Lonnie ever happened to be in the city of Philadelphia. But don't make a special trip, the guy said. Well, Lonnie made a special trip. And we talked about how the sun is kind of shining. We can see Lonnie in the plane, and we kind of got like a warm, good feeling about this meeting, didn't we? In his wife's suitcase, he carried a new prototype. He unpacked it, filled the tank with water, pumped the gun until the air pressure was good and high, and then whoosh. And I think we had joked in that earlier meeting where he was showing everyone the squirt gun, and they were all saying, no, 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 no. Like, wouldn't it be funny if he squirted them? Well, that's what he does here. And guess what? They like it. Wow, they said. And kids everywhere agreed with that wow. Lonnie's water gun, called the Super Soaker, became a smash hit. In no time, there were super soakers in backyards and on beaches, in parks and playgrounds. And each sale of a super soaker put a little money into Lonnie's pocket. All those hours, all those years that Lonnie had spent in his workshop had paid off big time. And now he could afford just about anything he wanted. So what did Lonnie do? He got a bigger workshop, which is where you will find him today. Because facing challenges, solving problems, and building things are what Lonnie Johnson loves to do. And his ideas just keep on flowing. And in fact, the patent that he made that is like a projectile technology, that's actually what is also used in the NERF gun. So he invented both the NERF gun and the Super Soaker. All right, friends. I hope you enjoyed this reading of Whoosh, the Lonnie Johnson Super Soaking Stream of Inventions story. I will be back next week with another great book for you. Bye, friends.